Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Jennifer Huber, also known as Solo Travel Girl, and since June of 2022, I've been using Mounjaro to manage my type 2 diabetes. Now, before I get into this week's update and how wonderful Mounjaro has been in my life, I just want to remind you about my disclaimer that I'm not a healthcare professional and I'm just sharing my personal experience and opinion about using Mounjaro to manage my type 2 diabetes. Also, I have no relationship with any pharmacies or the drug manufacturer. All right, Mounjaro. Yeah, Mounjaro's been a game changer in my life. What you can see over the last year and a half is that I have lost over 60 pounds. But most importantly, I have lowered my A1C. When I started out on this journey, it was 8.2. Last check, it was 5.4. I have another blood draw scheduled for later this month. Can't wait to see what my A1C is. Um, this also means my glucose numbers have been lowering each day. Sure, I no longer have high blood pressure, so I'm no longer on a high blood pressure medication. Last check, my cholesterol was 165, so it's a little bit on the high side, so I still am on a statin, but I'm going to work my way off of that. I'm pretty confident. And also, I did have non alcoholic fatty liver disease when I started this journey, and I no longer have that. So that has been reversed. So, yeah, Mounjaro basically has been amazing. So I've been trying to find a nice place to record for you all. And yeah, I am in the middle of a forest, kind of. I'm in a mangrove forest. I'm actually along the harbor walk in Punta Gorda. And I have another video. I don't know when that's going to get up, but there's a new resort that opened up. So I went there for lunch. So I'm going to post that video hopefully this week. But as you can see, I'm in the mangroves. So yesterday I was supposed to go forest bathing with the Rickery Bay down in Naples. However, the weather was just horrible yesterday in Florida, so that got canceled. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to go with that particular outfitter. If you remember, I won that opportunity, and they only hold these classes the first Saturday of the month through April. And I will be working every Saturday, every first Saturday of the month, and every Saturday in February. So we'll see. I did find another forest bathing opportunity closer to me, and it's during the week, so I'm just going to take some time off and do that. So I'll share with the community as much as possible. But yeah, as you can see, there's some trash here. I suspect it's left over from Hurricane Ian. But let's do a little walk and talk. So yeah, Friday I injected myself with my 80th week of Mounjaro at the 7.5 milligram dose. Let's see. I stayed the same weight. I'm still 134 pounds this week. My glucose numbers, you can take a look at those numbers here. They're kind of in the lows again, a lot in the 60s, if I'm remembering correctly. Exercise, basically walking my dog twice a day, and then nutrition, just being mindful.
Hello! I bet you weren't expecting this transition back into my living room. Well, thanks for joining me the first part at the Harbor Walk in Punta Gorda, Florida. The rest of the video, I don't know. I was listening to what I recorded and I'm like, this doesn't make sense, so I'm just going to scrap that part and then just film the rest at home because it's getting late. The Bills game is almost on. But anyway, I want to talk about 2024 and goals. I don't necessarily do resolutions, I call them goals. And I've been thinking about this, and when I drove up to Buffalo and back for Christmas, I obviously had a lot of idle time by myself, other than talking to my dog. And I talked to a friend the other night, and she and we first met in 1990 in Yellowstone, and we've kept in touch all this time. And we haven't spoken in a few months, several months. And I sent her a picture of what I look like now, and she was floored. She said she wouldn't recognize me on the street, and I'm sure of that, because I've lost all this weight since being on Mounjaro. And so we got talking about the medication, and she asked me how it's impacting my life, and she asked me some really deep questions. And bottom line is, she said, and this really struck a chord with me, that she says that I have lost some of my creativity, and because like every year I might do a photo collage for the holidays or hand make some cards. Like for Valentine's Day one year I made like 24 Valentines and mailed them out to friends and family and that, and I don't know if I'm going to be doing that this year. And I haven't posted on my blog in several months. I've been creating videos because honestly, for the last 10 years or so, people, marketing entities have been saying, you got to get into video, you got to get into video. And, my YouTube channel is pretty old. I don't have a lot of quality videos on there, especially from the early days. I mean, I was recording videos on my not my flip phone, but a flip video recorder, a video. I think it was called a flip camera, and it was pink, and it could store up to an hour's worth of media on there. And I've just evolved over the years, with GoPros and phones and whatever. I digress. But she said that she's noticed how I don't seem as creative as I used to be. And she also commented that Mounjaro seems to be taking over my life. And the aspect, not necessarily because I'm doing these videos once a week, but that I spend quite a bit of time answering questions from people offline, or I have friends at least once a week reaching out to me and wanting to know about Mounjaro and or other medications which I don't know about. And I've been very careful in positioning myself not as an expert in Mounjaro or Ozempic or Wegovy or zepbound, but just someone who is sharing my personal experience using the medication, using Mounjaro. And I've been very careful in not positioning myself in that. And there are tons of other creators out there who have positioned themselves as experts, and I do kind of push people. I'll share my personal experience and then direct people to those channels, to those experts. But I know that, especially friends like the accessibility to me, because of course I'm going to share my personal experience and opinion, but it is somewhat draining, and it's been my life every week for the last 80 weeks, and that's, over a year and a half. So my word for 2024, my goal is to tap more into my creativity. So creativity is my word for 2024. Also, something is pulling me out to, I don't want to say out to the woods, but I just feel this need and this desire to connect more with Mother Nature. And, that's why I was looking forward to that forest bathing experience that was supposed to happen yesterday. And I actually booked an upcoming camping trip down in the Everglades where I used to live and work. So I'm looking forward to that. And I've been looking into like a bonsai class. I know that's not necessarily being outdoors, but that's, molding a tree. And I'm looking at, there's some new night sky tours in the community and some night hikes and that. So I'm looking into that. So in addition to my creativity and ramping up my blog again, I do want to publish another book. Initially I wanted to publish this book during the pandemic, basically a collection of my travel stories. When I was, before the pandemic, for a couple years or multiple years, I was writing for the local newspaper. I had a weekly column. It was the front page of the features section, and that's a nice byline to have. However, I was not getting paid, and I know you shouldn't do things for free, but I did it, one, because it forced me to write every week, and two, I kept all my rights to that work so I can later publish it all together into a book or to whatever else. So I'm looking to publish that initial book that I wanted to publish a few years ago during the pandemic, and I ended up publishing my A to Z of a solo travel girl, Traits of Women Who Travel Alone, Then Lonely. I ended up publishing that instead of the other book I wanted to, and someday you'll hear the whole story, the rest of the story, so to say. But anyway, I want to wrap this up. I don't want to go too long. I do value your time. I do value you being here. I'm still going to continue sharing my weekly updates on Mounjaro. And if I can't answer a question, it's not because I don't want to. It's just because I don't want to provide the wrong information. I'm not medically trained, and I don't want to be responsible for someone's health. That's it in a nutshell. Oh, I just want to mention about the Sharps containers. If you remember, several months ago, I ordered a Sharps container from the Eli Lilly website, and then I received a letter saying that they weren't going to send it because they didn't have any more. Well, a subscriber recently commented on one of my videos that the Sharps containers are now available on the Eli Lilly website, which is very exciting. So I'm going to go place my order. And I imagine they have to, because with zepbound and you probably saw the news about Eli Lilly that they are now going to be prescribing the medication from their website, the zepbound medication, which is pretty exciting. I imagine having Sharps containers really makes sense, because that's going to at least double or maybe triple their customer base. Yeah. All right, so that's all I have for this week. Again, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here and following me on this journey. I hope you have a wonderful start to your 2024, and I hope this is your best year yet. If you're just tuning in for the first time and you're on this Mounjaro journey, or perhaps zepbound, my pieces of advice to you are: stay in touch with your healthcare provider. If something seems off, reach out to them. You need to keep yourself hydrated. You need to move more. It doesn't necessarily need to be hardcore exercises, although I wish I did some more strength training. A lot of the exercising I did was yoga, Pilates, and Pyo. You need to clean up your eating. You got to step away from the processed foods, and trust me, the whole foods are going to taste so much better. The vegetables and fruits are going to taste much more vibrant. Yeah, and that's all I have to say this week. So again, thank you so much for watching, and remember this week, not only be kind to others, but please be kind to yourself. All right, bye-bye.